guys, Chris Ballard here, the Growlers. Join me every friggin' Saturday. The Growler Hour is gonna be deadly.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Growler Hour presented by Molson Coors. I am your host, Growlers play-by-play voice, Chris Ballard. Happy to have you aboard here on a pretty special day. This time last year, of course, the Growlers were Kelly Cup champions for the first time ever, and we got a couple of guests here. We'll get a little bit into that, but we've got all kinds of different stuff to talk about. Before we even tee up tonight's show, first, make sure you follow us wherever you're tuning in from here tonight, whether that be on Twitch or wherever you may be. Make sure you follow us on social media as well to make sure to get all the updates on what we got coming down the pipe. Don't forget, on television, you can find the show on Rogers on Saturday nights at 9 p.m. and again on Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. No excuses to miss us. So make sure you set your dials and make sure you join us however you'd like to. Next week, we have another great show coming up. Before we get to tonight's guests, of course, we have Evan Neugold coming up to kick off the show. And in the second half of the program tonight, a very special guest, Alan Doyle, is going to be here. A big fan of the Growlers. Looking forward to that chat. Next week, we will let you know we've got Parker Hagen lined up to join us here. He'll be talking about his season with us, then his Newfoundland experience. And as well, joining us all the way from Latvia with the ink still fresh on his NHL contract, Christians Rubens will be by to join us. So again, all of that next week, live on Thursday on Twitch with Christians Rubens and Parker Gahagan. But enough of next week, on to tonight's show. And what a show we've got lined up for you. And we're going to kick it off with a friend of the program, a great defenseman, a Kelly Cup champion, and an all-around beauty. Please welcome to the program from Goshen, Connecticut, Evan Neugold. Evan, thanks for jumping on with me tonight, my friend.
Absolutely, Bally. Excited to get it going.
So fill us in. How have you been these last few weeks and months? I know it's been a challenging time for everybody, but you're looking good. How are you holding up?
I'm doing great, actually. I'm back on the family farm in Goshen, as you know. Just been trying to stay busy, doing anything I can. Been in the wood shop a lot, working on a lot of projects, trying to help out just any way I can, to be honest, because there's a lot to do, which is, I guess, lucky. You know what I mean?
Oh, pretty especially fortunate. Now. Hey, at least you'll have some time to dip into some projects, and if you find your way back here, I think my cabinets need refinishing.
There you go.
Have you been out on the links much? I know you were the last guest, actually, on the Growlers Nation podcast. So the last time we caught up long form was really only in the middle of March, right before this all ended. That's when you let us know you're a big golfer as well. Hopefully this time has allowed you some time to work on your golf game at least.
Oh, yes, certainly has. It's one of the exciting things about being back home. I actually live 30 seconds away from the golf club I just joined. So been getting out there 6:30 a.m. every day, just trying to grind on the game. So still not good yet, but we're getting there. We're definitely getting there.
I'm sure it'll come around. Now, normally when we on these shows, early on in the program, we shoot the breeze a little bit, and it's a lot of small talk. I ask guys what they're watching, but with you, now I'm about to ask you that same question, but it might hold a little extra weight because when you were in college at Middlebury, you completed a degree in film and media culture, did you not?
I did. Yep, that was my degree. I'm a big movie guy. I actually just loved. In high school, I got into acting, did a couple of school plays and stuff like that. And then just in college, a lot of the hockey guys, a lot of sports people in general at my school did the economics route, but I just kind of knew I wasn't ever interested in that and I don't know. I don't ever want to work at a desk if I can't help it. So that definitely steered me in the right direction towards film and media.
So that makes me excited to then ask you, what have you been binging over the last few weeks?
So I just got into Ozarks, already crushed the first season onto the second. And then obviously I'm a huge Office fan. So I got into Space Force for Steve Carell. So just getting into that. Yeah. What
do you think so far? We crushed it like the day it came out. So I won't spoil anything, but what's your initial reaction?
Yeah. I love it. I mean, it's kind of right up his alley. Steve Carell, that's kind of his humor. And I didn't realize the cast was that kind of star-studded for what it is. So it's actually, I mean, if you like satirical government and USA policies and stuff like that, it's pretty spot on. So I like it a lot.
So check it out, folks, on Netflix. Not a sponsor, but just good television for this time of year. Everyone, I guess, in the sports world has watched The Last Dance by now. I can only assume you would have done that yourself as well.
Yep, I have. Big MJ fan. So, I mean, just watching that guy, he's a savage, right? So he's a completely different specimen. But definitely can give just the average person motivation to go out there and try to be their best at whatever they're doing. So I think ESPN did a great job there.
No, absolutely they did. And now how does that compare? Because obviously that documentary series is focused on pretty much one singular athlete. You seem to like those kinds of movies. On the podcast, you told me one of your favorite movies you used to watch before every game growing up was Marc Messier, leader, champion, and legend. How does this compare to that piece of cinema, which I watched this morning in preparation for our chat tonight?
No, you didn't. Did you actually?
I found it on YouTube. It was about 52 minutes long, and it had actually brought back, to those of you, go and check it out. It's a great story about Marc Messier, right from his Oiler days all the way up to winning the Stanley Cup in '94 with the Rangers. It's a great way to kill an hour. I had it on VHS and completely forgotten about it.
That's what I told you. I watched it in my car. I'd rig up this old school fat little back television into the car, and then I'd pop that VHS in on the way to games when I was a kid, and I would just absolutely crush it. I loved it. But no, I thought Last Dance was, I mean, obviously delves way deeper into all aspects of Jordan's life, but
for sure.
I mean, that's what ESPN's really good at, right? You know, all those E60s and stuff like that, but that's kind of what you wanted to see. You wanted to see the take that's not acceptable to watch just on game nights. You know what I mean?
Hey, exactly. So since you do have some expertise in film and media that we don't get to tap into on a regular basis, I thought this would give us an opportunity to maybe have a little chat about movies and about maybe some sports and hockey movies. I'll preface all of that by asking, given your background, what you did in school, do you consider yourself like a film buff or a movie geek or anything like that? Or is it just something that you found some interest in school and ended up with a degree in it?
I definitely wouldn't consider myself an expert, but I am a huge film, TV show, just pretty much anything geek for what you can watch. Having said that, I probably don't watch as much as I could because I'm outside a lot, but yeah, I absolutely love all types. You know, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, The Hobbit, like obsessed with the sci-fi fantasy stuff like that, along with sports documentaries, anything like that. Actually, I've actually probably been binging more than anything right now, just on YouTube, is Chronicles of Champion Golfer. So the British Open does documentaries on all its winners, and they're like 26 minutes long, and it's pretty awesome.
I'll ask you a couple golf questions too coming down the pipe, but if we're having a movie conversation, I have to start with this. Straight up, what do you think is the greatest hockey movie of all time? Because that's a good challenging list to pull from. You have the OG Slapshot as a classic. You know, you have a lot of Mighty Ducks to contend with. Miracle is up there. Even Goon is a great flick. Youngblood is a bit of a hidden gem for folks of this generation. Where do you stand? What's your favorite hockey movie?
I mean, I just think purely, I mean, it's definitely because I am American, but Miracle is for sure, I think, my number one just hockey movie, just even the way the hockey was filmed, right? And it's pretty spectacular. I mean, Slapshot's one thing because it's filmed decades ago, you know what I mean? But it's a little different for that aspect, and the humor is unbelievable in there too. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, I think Miracle is probably my favorite hockey movie. Great documentary if you haven't seen it, is The Russian Five. So it's about the Detroit Red Wings when they brought over all the Russians, and it led to like their Stanley Cup success. But it's pretty incredible story on those Russian players that broke over the barrier when the Soviet Union was still very much a thing. So that one's probably goes Miracle or Russian Five, and then, I mean, geez, I don't even know. Yeah, I could put Slapshot up there. I love Youngblood. Grew up on Mighty Ducks, though. I'm not going to lie to you. If I want to have a good laugh and watch a hockey film, I think I throw on Mighty Ducks or Mighty Ducks 2 even.
I'm so glad you said that.
Trinidad and Tobago, those jerseys, that's like my favorite thing ever, right?
Because I have it written in front of me. My next question for you was going to be, what is the best Mighty Ducks movie? Because I'm of the mindset, and I think it might be a little bit of a hot take, that D2 is the best of the trilogy. Oh, yeah. What's your take?
Oh, yeah, I think I'm right there with you. I love D2, and there are just so many one-liners that are just unbelievable in that film. When Gordon Bombay just goes, he's just pointing at his own poster, and he goes, "What is this? This is a distraction. What is this? That's a fire in a barrel. What is this?" And he throws it in there. He goes,
"That's a distraction in a fire in a barrel."
In a fire in a barrel.
I love it. Yeah, I love it.
I love D2.
You get the nationalistic pride of, obviously Team USA. The Junior Goodwill Games is no joke.
No. Iceland is the best team in the world, which is just, that's bananas to me. But hey, I love it. I love everything about it.
You're speaking my language. Plus, there's stuff about the first Mighty Ducks that's kind of gotten to me over time. If I have to watch Charlie Conway take an illegal shootout attempt without a bucket one more time, I'm over it. It's done. I mean, not that I want to bring this up every time we chat, but you know how to take a good shootout attempt. Sometimes the rules just don't apply, right?
Hey, I know more than anyone that rules can apply even when you don't break them. They will enforce them on you.
Of course, I'm just joking around. The infamous 18-round shootout in Maine on St. Patty's Day last season, the championship winning. We don't need to go down that, but just in case we
could have been one of my best goals. Could have been one of my best goals.
It was you ended the game, in my opinion, but folks, check out the highlights and go back. Let us know your thoughts. We could spend this whole show talking about that. We won't. I'm going to do you a better solid than that. Is Happy Gilmore a hockey movie?
You know what? I think, Friends Don't Dance, but I absolutely think it's a hockey movie for sure. I think it's a phenomenal movie, and it brings my two favorite things in the world together. So hockey and golf, can't beat it. Adam Sandler is an unbelievable human in cinema history too. So
he's definitely carved out a very special place in film history for sure.
Hey, if you go back and watch like any of his films, you realize how just funny they are. Like he just sticks to his guns, and they're all so funny. Grown Ups is one of my all-time favorite movies. I'm not lying.
It's a good one.
It's unbelievable. It's so funny.
What are some of your other favorite sports movies in general? I feel like we can go sport for sport here. Baseball, there's a zillion of them. There's a handful of basketball ones. I feel like there's 2 million golf movies, and they're all excellent. What are some more of your favorite sports flicks?
Baseball, definitely The Rookie. Dennis Quaid, I love that story too. I think he's a great actor, so that's definitely my favorite movie. Actually, you know what? The Natural is probably up there too. Roy Hobbs. That's a phenomenal sports movie. That's probably my top 10. We get dangerous here. Golf, favorite golf movies, definitely The Greatest Game Ever Played with Shia LaBeouf. That's just a great story too. The book's even better because it's based on a true story for those of you looking for something inspirational. Let's see. Surfing. There's a great one, kind of a low-key unheard of one called Chasing Mavericks, which is based on a true story. I won't spoil it for anyone, but that's also a pretty great film. Just about a 16-year-old who rides like an 80-foot wave, learns how to ride those giants out there on the coast of California. But yeah, let's see what else. Oof, I mean, boxing, all the Creeds, all the Rockies, Raging Bull.
They weren't even on my list, which is blasphemous in and of itself. Yeah, I forgot about there's a handful of good boxing flicks out there.
Raging Bull, Ali with Will Smith. They're all so good. Yeah.
Even if you go to the documentary side, When We Were Kings, the documentary about Ali and Foreman, the Rumble in the Jungle. Unbelievable documentary.
Yeah. Yeah, skateboarding too, just because as you can tell, I like skateboarding and surfing now. Dogtown Days, Lords of Dogtown. That's another phenomenal one. Teaches you about the history of skateboarding, so it's pretty cool.
I love it. But so you and I are close enough to the same age. Did you watch like The Sandlot and Rookie of the Year growing up as far as baseball?
Oh my goodness. I still watch The Sandlot. That's actually, my mom showed me that movie because that's one of her favorite movies.
No.
So she got me into The Sandlot. Oh yeah. I mean, I think from 3rd to 5th grade in my school, I tried to get the trend going of wearing, rolled up jeans with Converses or the PF Flyers and those 3/4 baseball shirts. So you'd see a bunch of kids running around with those. It was hilarious. We play kickball and stuff like that because you weren't allowed to play real baseball. Pretty funny.
Classic. So getting away from sports movies in general and kind of looking at movies on a bigger picture, what do you consider to be like the best movie of all time? I know a lot of people, Shawshank Redemption holds the top spot on a lot of people's list, rightfully so, but what's on the top of critic Evan Neugold's list of top flicks?
Man, that's really hard. I don't even know because man.
And a follow-up question, if this helps you at all, I will be asking, what is your favorite movie after this? So this doesn't have to be what your favorite movie is, but the one that you maybe have the most respect for is the greatest movie.
Well, I think in this regard, I am a big film geek. I love all the Godfathers. I love that trilogy. Godfather 1, 2, 3, unbelievable. The Departed is definitely up there for me. I think that movie is incredible. It's tough. It's really tough.
So what about your favorite movie then? I'll give you a moment to maybe think about that. What are some of because I find with me, the movies that I think are really good films, like Titanic is a great movie. It also takes a day and a half to watch it. So it's not my favorite movie. Do you know what I mean? My favorite movie is Sergeant Bilko, which is a weird movie no one remembers that Steve Martin did in the 90s. Yeah. It's hilarious. Go watch it. That's my recommendation. But what would you say is your favorite movie, the one you've seen 200 times?
Oof. I think, honestly, The Greatest Game Ever Played is definitely up there. Strangely enough, The Other Guys.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, I did. I mean, if you need to just throw something on to clear your mind and fall asleep to, The Other Guys is right up there. What else? I don't know. I'd have to think about it. You might have to have me on again. Jeez.
I'm all right with that.
There are too many movies out there.
What about
actually, I love The Hobbit. I love The Hobbits.
I actually never saw The Hobbit. I think I hadn't looked at that universe since I had to read it in school as a kid.
Yeah, no, I think it's because I grew up reading all the books, and then they finally made movies for them, so I was obsessed. But I love The Hobbits. Even the Harry Potters are unbelievable. Lord of the Rings, all the new Star Wars, all the old Star Wars, all great.
Now, talk a bit about, I guess, movie culture on the bus. Because when we're traveling, and if it's a long enough road trip, there are TVs on the bus and a DVD player with a bit of a limited selection. I think we've watched the same movies a handful of times over. Kind of, why don't you pull back the curtain a little bit and tell us who picks the movies? What kind of process? Does anyone really even care? Kind of put it all together for us.
Yeah, so I guess tradition in pro hockey is the rookies end up buying a bunch of DVDs for the road trips coming up for the season, and it's up to them really to pick some good ones. The general rule of thumb is don't go with the blatantly obvious ones, because, like you said, right, it's a long season and no one wants to watch the other guys for the 10,000th time besides me. You know what I mean?
Me too.
So you try to find movies that not everyone might have seen or watched, but usually they're comedies, a couple of horror films in there. We watched Paranormal Activity a couple of times before going to Adirondack to our haunted hotel. So that's set up for a good night of sleep.
And I remember that was a divisive pick on the bus. This was not.
I think everyone ended up loving it, though. I think everyone ended up loving it, though, right? Because you kind of want to be spooked a bit when you go into those situations. It's more fun.
You might be right. Do you watch movies any differently with a degree in film in your back pocket? Like, are you not fun to watch a movie with? Do you know what I'm asking?
No, not at all. Actually, I keep very quiet. I love all movies. Like I said, I'm not an expert. I don't consider myself an expert at all. I was just lucky enough to get that education and learn a bit about it. But no, I can genuinely say I'm a great person to watch movies or shows with, but I am terrible to watch reality dating shows with, because part of my education was to study. There's actually a show out there on how they make reality TV shows and how it's all scripted. Cool. Yeah, but it's all scripted. You know what I mean? So what you're watching is completely opposite of reality, but everyone thinks it's real. So, like people love watching The Bachelor, Bachelorette, and I can't. I lose my mind when I see these things.
I kind of agree, and I'm not going to poo-poo any kind of other television. You can enjoy it.
I understand. Yeah, I understand. I understand what you know what I mean, what can draw you into about that. But once you've seen how it's made, it's tough to sit there for an hour.
What's your take on, because there were guys on the Growlers this past season who wouldn't miss an episode of The Bachelor. Aaron Luchuk, I told him off for it on his podcast episode, because I'm like, Luch, are you serious? He said, yes, I'm fully serious.
Yeah. Some people love watching it. I mean, that's safe. That's your thing. But you don't want to watch it with me. That's for sure.
Let me ask you this then. Let's say Hollywood comes calling, Evan, we're making a movie on your life. You get to pick who plays Evan Neugold in the story of your life. Who would you like to see playing yourself?
Oh man, that's tough. I got to stick to my guns here, but Steve Carell, you've seen him skate in The Office. He can play hockey. He actually played hockey growing up. So I like to think I'm decently funny. So I would love to see him play me.
I love that so much.
Maybe keep a Chris Evans, keep the Evans in there. He seems like he could do a good job in the sports movie. Captain America, sure.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
But I like Steve Carell for sure, because my life in hockey is not all serious. There's definitely some fun in there too.
That's the best pick I could have possibly asked for. But in this future movie they'll surely be making about Evan Neugold, there's certainly lots of stories to cram into a couple of hours there. Let's touch on a couple of those. I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about what happened a year ago today. It's the 1-year anniversary as we're filming. He got the hardware on his finger, Kelly Cup Championship. I mean, I'm
gotta represent.
I'm sure your Facebook has been kind of blowing up with the different memories and posts and everything from a year ago. I mean, now that you look back on the Kelly Cup Championship, I mean, does it still feel as surreal as it did this time last year?
Absolutely. Actually, I think with time, it ages well. You know what I mean? I think it becomes more special to you. Obviously, in the moment, it's the best thing in the world, but with time, you get a different perspective and just how special what we did was, and the group of guys we had. Just something that very few people get to experience in their life, regardless of whether it's in the NHL or the lower leagues. But it's certainly just as special for the people that were there. So that's something I'll cherish forever, no doubt.
So is there any particular memories of that run that really kind of jump back and hit you over the head with a hammer? Is there anything in particular? Like, I really can't believe like this happened to lead us to the championship. Is there anything in particular that's kind of jumping out at you in terms of a memory from that whole run?
I think just kind of right pretty much near the last 10 games of the season, something clicked where we just, even if we lost, I can't even remember now, but I don't know if we lost many games within the last 10 games of the year before the playoffs started, but there was no worry in the locker room because everyone knew what we needed to do and everyone had their role. And I think the biggest piece to a championship run is everyone knowing their role and accepting it, but not just accepting it, because you can get guys who accept it and they're pretty down about it, but you get guys in there that accept it and are excited to bring what they have to offer to the table. That's when you get a special team. And I think we had every guy in that lineup knew what they brought and they wanted to bring it for every other guy. So I think our overtime record speaks for itself for sure. That'll get you a lot of wins if you don't really lose in overtime. And just big goals.
Yeah.
Big goals at late minutes in the period. I think those are things that really defeat and deflate the other team, which led to a lot of wins for sure.
So in this Evan Neugold biopic, we'll have to have a scene or two about the Growlers' 19-game home winning streak from this past season. Kind of the same question. I mean, now that the dust is kind of settled on that and we have that accomplishment to hang our hats on for this offseason, given that didn't get that chance to defend the title. What do you take away from a crazy run like that in front of the fans here in St. John's?
I think just how special where we play is. When you really love the city and the city gets behind your team, it seems a lot easier to play those games for some reason, whatever it is, right? It could be because you're sleeping in your own bed, but I think it's more just knowing that it means more in your building because you want to play well in front of your fans and for people that care, people that pay, that put money into your bank account, you know what I mean? Because fans pay our paychecks. So, but no, it was special. It just seemed like even when we'd get down 2 or 3 goals sometimes at home and there was no worry. It was just like we were going to score 4, 5, 6 coming up. So when you got that confidence, it's hard to beat.
And now if this movie were to require an ending today, the end of our season and exactly how all of that went down would surely require, again, a scene or two. What do you remember about kind of that last game in Brampton and that day in the hotel? Are we going back on the road to continue the trip? Are we going home? What's your recollection of kind of the day the season ended?
Yeah, the day the season ended was more like the day the world changed, right? It was kind of crazy. And in split second overnight, the world seemed to change because the news came out about the basketball players in Utah getting COVID. Yeah. And that was right when the hysteria was at a peak about the potential dangerousness of the disease. So within 24 hours, our whole kind of world changed, and it was, all right, we're going to ship up, go back to St. John's and wait it out for a week or two. And everyone's thinking everything's going to get back to normal. And here we are months later, right? Still here with no season. Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. Praying for normal, right? Or getting used to the new normal. So, but I'm super thankful for the season we had. And I like to think we would have had a pretty good shot at repeating. I guess we'll never know, but all we can do is try to prove it whenever hockey starts over, right?
That's right. And I really like how you just put that. It's not all doom and gloom. We can definitely shine some light on some of the positives that have come out of this season. I mean, you yourself, you had such a great year. You led all D-men on the team with 9 goals, 27 points. That's the most you've had in a single season, even including your days when you played forward. What do you think went well for you this year?
I think we touched on it in the last podcast I was on you with, but I think it was just that mentally I just freed myself up because I told myself with the position you're in, you kind of just got to go for it, right? I mean, I was 26, 27, kind of, 7th, 6th defenseman in and out of the lineup. Even the beginning of the year, I scratched the first few games, right? And when I got my opportunity to go back in, I said, you're never coming back out, so you better prove something. So I think I just told myself, you're a forward, you've been a forward your whole life, so you can score and you can put up points even if you're not getting, the opportunities on power play or whatnot. You can still do it 5-on-5, so take advantage of it. I just told myself to shoot more, to be honest. That was it. I've worked very hard on my shot my whole life, so just decided to let it rip whenever I got a chance.
And it certainly worked out for you this season, my friend. What's next for you now? Obviously, the offseason still has a lot of unknowns. No one knows when everything ramps up again. Kind of what are you going to do the next few weeks and months as we, again, creep a little closer to normalcy here?
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of things up in the air. I'm keeping busy on the farm, doing a lot of wood shop projects, getting into like resin river table designs and stuff like that. I don't know if you've ever heard about those, but they're pretty cool.
Oh yeah, we're DIYers in this house, so we're excited.
Yeah. So that's I'm big into that. I'm making one for myself right now because I need a new desk. So I'll keep you guys updated. But no, I don't know. I might pursue my PGA teaching card. Try to become a PGA professional teacher. You know what I mean? Because golf and hockey have been my two passions in life, more than anything. And I would love to stay in either, but with hockey up in the air and all that, it's definitely on my mind considering other options right now, but we'll see. It's exciting. It's as scary as it is, it's exciting, right? So trying to stay positive about everything and go for it.
Well, that's a great point. And, obviously there's a lot of doom and gloom in the world, but there's positives to be taken out of it. The Growlers had a great season. You yourself had a great year. And, all we can do is put our best foot forward and, try and be the best global citizens we can be moving forward to make sure that we're not contributing to any of the further problems. Evan Neugold has been our guest here in the first half of Growler Hour. Evan, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us. And please say hello to your dad for me.
Absolutely. Will do. I'd love to hear about it. So thank you guys.
And to all of you, make sure you stick around. Alan Doyle is coming up after a very short break. This is Growler Hour. We'll be right back.
Yeah, boys, Chris Ballard here, the Growlers. Join me every friggin' Saturday. The Growler Hour is going to be deadly. Chris Ballard, the voice of the Newfoundland Growlers, on Rogers TV, Saturdays at 9 p.m. for the Growler Hour.
And welcome back to Growler Hour. Thanks for coming back. And now on to tonight's special guest. Well, the province of Newfoundland and Labrador has certainly produced its fair share of songbirds, but I'm not sure anyone has flown quite as high as this fella. Please welcome to the program from Petty Harbour, Newfoundland and Labrador, Alan Doyle. Alan, thanks so much for jumping on here with us today.
Excited to be here, man. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm grateful to be here talking about hockey or whatever else he wants to talk about.
Hey, bye. We'll get to a little bit of everything, but I'd like to start here. Obviously, I had to do a bit of homework thinking that I was going to be talking hockey with you today, and I asked myself, I wonder if Alan's a hockey fan at all. I didn't wonder very hard. I went to your Twitter bio, where you describe yourself as a musician, an actor, a winker, and a nodder, which I love and will be stealing, and a Habs fan. So that answered that question for me. Why don't you take me back and tell us how did you first fall in love with the game of hockey and why the Montreal Canadiens for you?
Surely. Well, I was born in Petty Harbour in the last bits of the 1960s, in May of 1969, and so I kind of, and Petty Harbour, and like everyone around, and it was a massive hockey town, and everyone loved the hockey. By the time I became, really a wide-eyed little kid in the mid '70s, the Habs were making the biggest run in hockey history, for God's sake, and they had superheroes on the team, right? They had, Dryden, and they had, Bob Gainey, and they had Guy Lafleur and Steve Shutt and Cormier, and so it was an obvious team to fall in love with. But I always like to tell about how I fell in love with Montreal, the city, as much as that team, because of the cities you got to see a lot, and I got to see Toronto a lot, and New York and Boston and Detroit, and they all seem kind of similar, right? I mean, the cities themselves and the people in the cities, they kind of look the same to me. But whenever it came to Montreal, like when the cameras panned the crowd, it just looked like the coolest place in the world. It was like all the ladies being fur coats and everyone smoking, dressed up. It would look like a Narnia or something for a curious little fellow like me. So I ended up falling in love with Montreal and the Canadiens kind of at the same time. And I still love both.
No kidding. So you've joked on Twitter a couple of times now saying you haven't had this many consecutive Saturday nights off since 1984. Prior to 84, how many of those Saturday nights were spent in front of the tube watching the Canadian?
Every Saturday night. I mean, it was I grew up like say in Petty Harbour, and we it was one of that era when we only had one channel. Like we only got CBC. We barely even got the other channel at the time. There was only two to get. We couldn't get one of them. So we watched, everything on the CBC, right? So like, and Saturday nights was always the same. It was Tommy Hunter into Hockey Night in Canada, and that was just fine with me. Songs and hockey, perfect.
Bring it on. Did you ever play the game yourself, or do you play it now?
Oh yes, I started playing hockey. Oh, I can't even remember when I started playing, but I played minor hockey all through the Ghouls minor system. So I played Atom and Bentham and midget Pee-wee and all that stuff till I was whatever age you finished doing that, 16 or 17, I guess. And then we had a high school hockey team in St. Kevin's in the Ghouls for 2 games, but we got into too many fights with Beaconsfield, so they kicked us out of the league. What are you going to do? And then I played a lot of recreational hockey over the years, and I did some of the, playing around St. John's mostly as a pickup goalie and beer leagues, and super fun. I did try out for the junior blades one time in Mount Pearl when I was probably 19 maybe or something. And I remember going to the one practice, and there was 5 goalies trying out for the team. And 4 of them were so clearly better than me. It wasn't even funny. And I already had a job, and I was playing 4 nights a week in the pubs downtown, and I was going to university full time. So I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. But so it was beer league since then. But my biggest thrill, actually, one of my biggest thrills playing hockey is really associated with, pro hockey in St. John's. Would have been in, I don't know, the late 1990s, I suppose. When was the last year the Leafs were in St. John's?
It was 2004.
Yeah, so it would have been around 2002 or maybe even 3. Sean Thornton would have been on the team, and Kevin Adams and Nick was the trainer, Nick Addijib. And anyway, they the goalies at the time were let me see now, Jimmy Waite, I think.
Yeah.
And Toskala.
Okay.
I think. And and maybe Marcel Cousineau. Can't remember. Or no, it was Toskala and Cousineau. Is Toskala right? Am I saying that right? No.
I'm not sure. You're really testing my my memory.
Yeah. I feel like, Toskala was his name. Anyway, they needed a goal. Somebody got called up and somebody got sick, so they needed a goalie for a practice. So Nick got me down and I got to sit in on a practice. And it was fantastic. And on the team at the time, they gave me like a little slide-in letter thing.
Yeah.
Doyle.
Your nameplate. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so cool. And so I got to sit in on practice, and I almost died because it was so physically hard. But it was really, really fun. And it was. I remember when it was over, I asked Sean Thornton and the guy, what was his name? Jamie Heward, who played for the Islanders, or did he play for the Hurricanes for a while? I remember saying, and Craig and Kevin Adams and a bunch of the guys saying, I said, man, because they were sort of lobbing a few at me, not trying to take my head off, I guess. But I said at the end of the tournament, at the end of the practice, I said, Sean, can you take a slap shot? I just want to see what a slap shot looks like, from a pro hockey player. And he was like, no. And I was like, oh, come on. I just want to see what it looks like. He said, man, I'm not the guy to do it. I don't even know where it's going. So anyway, Jamie and a couple other guys, I can't remember it now, but I remember Jamie Heward, he had the hardest shot. Oh, my God. So he said, okay, go in the net, sort of set up. We'll take a few shots on you, a few rippers. But do us a favor. Don't reach for them, right? Like, let them hit you if they're going to hit you. And, if they don't go turning your leg, to try to kick one out and get it in the side of the knee or something, or like break your wrist reaching. So anyway, I did that, and a bunch of them just hit me right in the pads or in the chest. And I was just like, they had like about 10 pucks lit up, and they took 10 shots. And when it was over, they said, do you want some more? And I was like, no, that's good. No, that's good enough. No, I'm good to know what that is now. And yeah, it was just the pace of the practice, that's like the conditioning of the team, the athletes, and the skill level was so much higher than anything that I'd ever experienced in the best rec hockey league. Like, it's amazing, like the difference. But anyway, it was a wonderful experience. I really enjoyed it.
No kidding. And that's kind of exactly what we want to try and get out of you here today is I want to find some areas in which your career in the music and entertainment business has maybe crossed paths with us in the hockey business. First thing that popped into my mind when doing a bit of homework was the national anthem. You've sung the national anthem in our barn a handful of times. I know you've done it elsewhere. I'll ask you this. How many times in your career do you think you've sung the national anthem now?
Oh, I don't know. 100 probably. Like,
right?
Yeah. Everything from because I love sports, so it's always a great excuse to get into the hockey games, whatever. I think I've done it. I don't know. I don't remember ever doing it in Vancouver, but I think I've done it at every other NHL hockey place in Canada.
Really? So I'm being a Montreal fan and getting into their building to do it. I mean, that must have been crazy.
Amazing. Sang the national anthem for Bob Gainey's retirement party.
Wow.
Bob asked us to do it. Yeah. And I did that. And then, but I did the national anthem in Calgary and Edmonton and Ottawa and Toronto a few times. I don't remember doing it in Vancouver, but that'd be fun to do that. But I did it in Denver as well at one of the All-Star games, and it was super fun. And did one of the coolest times I ever got to sing the national anthem was in Akron, Ohio.
Okay.
It was the opening season or opening game of what I think was called the Akron Aces baseball team, a AAA baseball team, who were the AAA team for the Reds, maybe for Cincinnati.
Right.
And anyway, it was like a 7,000 person baseball field in this cool little town, Akron, Ohio. Cool. Not a little town, but like a town, well, around the size of St. John's, I suppose. Maybe it's a little bit bigger, but like a small city, it was just so cool because the place is packed, of course, and it's America, and it's like opening day at a baseball game. Like, it was just so cool. I sang the national anthem because we were playing a gig there that night, and they asked us over. It was so cool. And it was just like, that was a cool experience. And even though singing the national anthem, the American national anthem, is the most terrifying thing in the entertainment business, ain't no doubt about it, because it's a very, very difficult song to sing. And it's very rangy. And all those times you see somebody on the internet, gaffing the high note at the national anthem, man, it's like, that is so easy to do. It's like, it's not even funny. It's like, it's terrifying. The Canadian was not so bad. The Ode, not so bad. American national anthem, oh my God. Terrifying.
Bit of work in that one for sure.
Terrifying. Beautiful song.
I want you to take me back. I dug up a story you told. I believe it was on Hockey Night in Canada back in 2012 or something. You were at the Cannes Film Festival in France promoting the film you did with Russell Crowe, Robin Hood, and you ended up at an after party, star-studded. Everyone's there, full red carpet, but you couldn't be torn away from your phone because your Habs were in Game 7 against the Penguins on their run to the Eastern Conference Final. You got to tell us that story.
Yeah, I know exactly what it was because it was the night that the film was the headline film at the premiere film at the biggest film festival on earth, And I didn't grow up in the film world, so I know about it the way anybody else would know about it, but I had no idea what a big deal the Cannes Film Festival is. Like, it is. I'm sure there are leaders to G8 countries who come and go and never see the fanfare of like the opening movie at the Cannes Film Festival. I mean, there are thousands and thousands of reporters and helicopters and the Today Show and like the whole works, right? And just was more famous people than I could name in an evening, just all there for various things. And so we went, it was in the south of France, and with the time difference around 9 or 10 o'clock when we did this event and watched the movie and stuff. And then we all walked down to this circus tent kind of affair, totally glammed up on the beach in Cannes. And that's where the after party was. It was full of famous people and all these, it was as cool a party as you could ever imagine being at in your life. And around 1 o'clock in the morning, with the time change, I realized that it's going into the third period now of Game 7 between the Habs and the Penguins. So I found the place. I couldn't get any cell service on my phone in the party, so I snuck out behind where like a food truck was parked, and I stood out behind this on this little deck behind like a food truck with a tuxedo on, by the way, holding my phone into the one place where I could get 2 bars so I could get the live radio feed. And I listened to the Habs win. And the guys, Russell and a bunch of the gang, Kevin Durant and a bunch of guys came, because Kev's a big Habs fan as well. Kev played Little John in the film. And we were all out just cheering for the Habs in the middle of this big party that everyone in Southern Europe was trying to get into. And we had got out to watch the hockey.
Unbelievable. That's crazy. Thank you for sharing. Now, you also performed during the 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver, did you not? Did you get a chance to catch any hockey?
Yeah, I saw the chance game. Well, myself and my brother Bernie Bernie's a couple years older than me. And when the Olympics got announced for 2010 in Vancouver, the Winter Olympics, I knew that it was a unique opportunity. Because the band, Great BC was still pretty big, and it's like, I'm pretty sure we're going to get asked to do something, And I said, if we get out there, I said to Bernie, I said, we're going to the hockey. We're going to the hockey. I'm telling you right now. And I will do whatever I got to do. Money, pay, sing, dance. We're getting in that game. And not long after, I found a way to get us into the game. And we had 2 tickets. And we spent the whole week out there. It was fantastic, by the way. My God, it was just incredible. We went to hockey a couple of games. And we went to a couple of ladies' games. And just bombed around the town. And it was just amazing. And we got into the Olympics. We got into the game, and of course, I swear to God, I always tell the story about when it went into overtime, and it was pretty sure it was Jerome McGinley and Sidney Crosby.
Yep.
Who were the 2 forwards up front there for the Canadian team, and how I try to describe it to people is that when they broke down and shot the pass came over from McGinley, I believe, to Crosby, and the puck went in the net. The light went on. I remember seeing the light go on, but the place was dead quiet. Nobody would believe it, and for a second, and maybe even a second and a half, which felt like forever, you could only hear one voice in the entire rink, and it was Sidney Crosby. He just went, and it was like, everyone was just like, they couldn't believe it, right? And it was just that little breath of silence with just him screaming like a kid with a Ginla chasing him was just like, man, oh man, that might be the coolest hockey thing I've ever seen in my life.
That's a hard one to top. I'll give you that. How good were your seats? Where were you sitting?
We ended up in a box with some various people from the Olympic Committee, because I did a favor for the Olympic Committee with a long story. And there was a bunch of dignitaries in there from other countries, many of whom knew nothing about hockey. And me and my brother going mental. Yeah. I do know this. I remember I sat next to, I'm trying to remember what Condoleezza Rice, what her position was in the U.S. government. Was she the
oh, you're really trying me here. Secretary of State, sure. Maybe?
Was she Secretary of State, or was she the head of justice or something? Big in I believe in the Obama administration. Is that right?
Out of my wheelhouse here.
Anyway, her sister, if I remember correctly, was the U.S. ambassador to either Canada or some other country. And I sat with her explaining hockey, explaining what offside was.
That's crazy. I have no follow-up questions. That is completely absurd. I'm curious how much hockey you get to follow if you yourself are on tour, or if you're on the bus with the boys. Do you still follow hockey, or do you kind of have to get into your own game mode and kind of lock in on the next performance kind of thing?
Depends on where you are in the world, and usually if you're on a tour bus, sometimes they have satellite TV that works. And for example, if you're on the East Coast playing, you can almost always watch the West Coast game, right? And if you're in New York or whatever, you can probably watch, because you're always on when the hockey's on. That's the worst, but then there's other times you watch it in the most unusual places. Like, I know exactly where I was when Ray Bourque won the Stanley Cup.
Where were you?
Exactly. I was in a hotel lobby bar in Inverness, Scotland, at about 4 o'clock in the morning, watching them win. Yeah, because of the time difference. And see, I do keep up on it a lot. It's a great pastime, and Chris McFarlane, who plays drums in our band, has forever. It's sort of a joke between him and me that's the first thing I say to him every morning. He's like, "What's on to go with the hockey?"
What's the score, right? Someone's got to fill you in. Any rivalries among bands?
What's on the go with the hockey?
Any Leaf fans in your posse? Any clash in there?
In Great Big Sea, Sean McCann was always a big Leafs fan. A big Boston fan. He a huge Bobby, just like my brother. And so, of course, Yeah, that was in my lifetime. That was always the bigger rivalry, right? Boston and Montreal is way bigger than Toronto and Montreal. And it's one of the weird things about being a Habs fan around my age, I think, from Newfoundland, is because everyone expects you, if you're a Habs fan, then you must not like the Leafs, right? And of course, the Leafs, of course, were always my second favorite team. Because I always like the Leafs, and I mean, it's a little bit dismissive, and people think I'm ribbing when I say it, but I'm not. It's just like, people say you must hate the Leafs, and I go like, why would I hate the Leafs? Like, what was to hate in my hockey lifetime against the Leafs? Like they never won, like
low blow there, Alan.
But it's true. It's like they never beat the Habs, like and it's just like they were never the rackets that the Habs had in my lifetime. It was always and the biggest reason, of course, I had an affection for the Leafs, other than that I love the city of Toronto, is because we had the baby Leafs here for so long, and just like. It was so cool watching. And it's what I always tell people about, the AHL and the ECHL and the various leagues. Like, it's so cool to watch those leagues, like in these small places, because you might see that guy might be on television tomorrow night. Like, and it's just, it was so cool for that sort of decade watching the baby Leafs come and go, and then watching, players just have, go from having a couple of games a season to being regular shifters, either with the Leafs or someone else, and I'm still friends with some of them. I still talk to Sean Thornton all the time, and I still talk to Kevin Adams all the time. And, yeah.
Wild. So I have to ask you then, what was your reaction when the Growlers finally took home the province's first ever hockey championship? What was your reaction?
Well, I have a good story for you for that too. When the Growlers won the championship, I was in Stockholm, Sweden. I was recording a record in the ABBA studio. And at about 2:30 in the morning, I got back to the hotel, and I found a place where I could stream the game and listen to you call the game. And from the hotel next to the ABBA studio in Stockholm, Sweden. And I put my arms up in the hotel room like that by myself. And I was like, I just thought it was such a cool thing for the team and for the city and for the league too. I think it's a good thing for the league to have such an excited champion, and the city. And it's great. I always said that about the AHL as well, is that having St. John's in this league is good for the league. It's like, I think we bring a lot as a hockey community and as a bit of a, exotic locale, right? I think that's awesome. Yeah.
What was your take on the ECHL? Like, I don't know if you'd ever caught a game of ECHL hockey before the Growlers rolled into town, but what's your take on the quality of hockey? Because I think it's opened a lot of eyes here for fans who are used to the American League here in St. John's.
I did see a bit of ECHL hockey before in the southern part of the U.S. There was. I went to see a couple of games in. Let me think now. Baton Rouge, I think, and
you have a team there.
Gainesville, Florida. Is that possible?
Wow. Yeah, there's a few Florida teams. That's wild. I completely did not expect you to say yes to any of this.
Yeah. And no, I go to see hockey in the weirdest places, even if I just go in for a period to see what it's like. Like I went to a program in Poland one time in Warsaw. That was awesome. And I went to the first AHL game I ever saw. It wasn't the St. John's Leafs. I saw was before I think even before the Leafs came to St. John's, or it was. I went to see in Cleveland, Ohio. I went to see. I think they were the Oilers then, or the Oil Barons, or something. They were the Edmonton Farm Club.
Long-time team, Cleveland Barons.
Yeah, saw that, and it was at the Gund Arena, the famous Gund Arena in downtown. Yeah, it's super fun. It's just a great, it's a great fun thing to see what the hockey is like. And of course, I've seen a lot of, over the years, a lot of the National Junior League, or the Canadian Junior League, of course, the CHL stuff, a lot of that, and in the coolest places too, man. Like, go to watch a junior game on a Friday night in Kamloops.
I'm
Like
sure
it
it's
is
bumping.
on wheels, man. Like it is just amazing. Kamloops is amazing to go see it. Brandon, incredible. I tell you what was a surprise to me how what a great night out it was Sudbury. You go to a game in Sudbury. Is it the Wolves now? They have the team.
Yep, the Sudbury Wolves.
What is their? Can't remember. Yeah, there's a famous, if I remember correctly, and I hope I'm not confusing it with Sault Ste. Marie, but I'm 99% sure it's Sudbury. Their hockey rink is on a corner, and if I remember correctly, for years and years and years, you weren't allowed to drink in that rink. Oh. So as soon as the whistle would blow, there was 2 bars across the street that would have beer on like picnic tables, basically ready to go. And everybody ran as fast as they could, necked 2 beer and ran back to it. It was like a great night out. Like, and I mean, that's one of my favorite things about hockey, especially basketball to a degree, but hockey especially, because they're 2 of the sports that occupy the dead of winter in North America, right? And for places like St. John's or anywhere really, when the rinks are in the heart of downtown like ours is, it just puts life into the city. Absolutely. At the time when it needs it the most, you know. And I just we don't need it on a Saturday in July. There's just, you know, we need it on a Tuesday in February, and the same is true every single city I can think of now, with the exception of Ottawa. I think in Canada, especially, has even the junior leagues have one after another moved their rinks from the outskirts into downtown.
Right. And
what a difference it makes to a city. Look no further than Winnipeg, and like it's like absolutely. And now Edmonton on that side of like where they moved the rink into the heart of downtown on one of the sides of Edmonton. It's like it's essential. You know, it's like to have it, especially in Canadian and colder cities where you need something to drive activity in the coldest months of the year.
No, absolutely. And we got you on here. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you at least a question or 2 about music here, but it's still going to be hockey related. For me, at least, and stay with me here, this question might be convoluted. Certain songs are hockey songs. They just get your blood pumping to grab a Molson product, park in front of the TV with the buys, and let her fly. 50 Mission Cap by the Tragically Hip. Even Ozzy Osbourne, Crazy Train. That's another one that just, you hear it, you get amped up. For you, what are some hockey songs or songs that kind of get you fired up, either for your own gig or to sit down and watch a game of hockey?
Well, I always loved, for whatever reason, if I remember correctly, the Baby Leafs always played The Boys Are Back in Town. When they came out, and every game when the boys came out, it was so cool to have that. But there's a Great Big Sea song, and I can brag about it because it had very little to do with it. I just played guitar and yelled in the background. But Bob Hallett wrote it, and we all sang. It was Bob's genius, really, and I love it so much. It's a song called Helmet Head. And it's a hockey song, and because Bob's not a big hockey fan, he wrote a song that I think a real hockey fan probably wouldn't, and because it's not about the guy who scored the winning goal, or it's not about the guy. It's about the bruiser, right? The guy who bumps around from league to league and is a great team guy and is a big hit with the ladies no matter where he goes, and it's such a cool character. And my favorite, the lyric that ends the chorus is never trust a fellow with a helmet on his head.
Hey, boy. Good words to live by. So you've also been among the busier performers during this whole pandemic situation. At the time that we're recording today, you've got the Budweiser stage at home this week with Blue Rodeo. You did the Walk to Alzheimer's Thank You concert in support of St. John's community centers. What's your motivation to pick up the guitar and keep doing this when you could just be sitting on your arse just getting through this like the rest of them?
Well, it's just, the proof is in the pudding that we don't do it because it's our job. We do it because we loves it, and it sounds like a simple thing to say, but I think it's true for the most happiest musicians anyway. It's like we do this because it's what we do. For me, like, and a couple of things you just mentioned, thankfully, are glimpses into what could become part of the new economy for musicians. Where for the foreseeable future, online performances and the like are all we got. And so we, as much as I don't want to be down in my basement studio singing into my own phone, it's what it's all we got right now. And trust me, nobody wants to get back to a full hockey rink theater as bad as me. But yeah, I mean, I that stuff is it's all fun to do, and I have a couple of recording projects always, and a writing project always, and so I'm never stuck for stuff to be at. But of course, the one thing I wants to be at the most is the one thing we're not allowed to be at right now, and that's getting in a room full of people and singing together. That's still my fave.
No, absolutely. And I'm curious too, during these pandemic times, a lot of us, yourself included, have a lot more free time. As a musician, has that kind of been maybe I hate calling it a blessing in disguise, but has this offered you an opportunity to sit down with the guitar and kind of come up with and create some new tunes?
The creation, like, part of it is not made easier or harder for me, because I do that when I'm on the road, and I do that when I'm home, and I do that. The creation of new music and new stuff I do when it needs to be done, and that's fairly regularly. So I have to do it in all circumstances. Just what it has allowed is an opportunity to to sort of reconnect with being home. I talked to a musician friend of mine last week. And she said, I said, how are you doing? She said, strangely, I feel really good. Like, I feel really healthy and stuff. And she's like, I'm terrified to realize that when our normal pace is actually too fast. And I fly 100 times a year, so it has made me really appreciate being in one place for a little while, especially home. And I did find the first month or so very difficult because it was still like that lingering part of winter and not yet spring. And now that spring is here and there's a possibility that I could have a summer at home, I got to say I'm digging it. I'm missing the concerts. I'm missing the crowds. I'm missing that part. But it's and I'd be eager. I'd go back tomorrow. Trust me, if we could. But I am kind of excited about sticking around Newfoundland for the summer. Bombing. I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll be allowed to play little concerts somewhere here, there, and every 100 people or something. Like, how much fun would that be? I haven't had a summer off since, I was 13. So,
it's not an easy time, but you found a way to do a lot of good as well. You had your own birthday kitchen party show that raised over $20,000 for the Dollar a Day Foundation. I know a cause very close and near and dear to you. Yeah. Take us through that whole event and tell us about the Dollar a Day Foundation.
Oh, Dollar a Day started very simply. I used to walk into Water Street. I lived on one side, and Great Big Sea had our studio down on the other end. And I walked every day while we were doing a record from one to the other. And I passed this guy on the street, and I used to give him $1 a day. And I learned about his mental health and addictions issues and stuff. And it was just an enjoyable part of my day to sit and chat with him for, sometimes only a minute or 2 minutes, And it was when the record was done, the band went on the road. I wondered about him. I wondered how I could give him $1 a day without actually being there to give him $1 a day. And so I started saving up like 4 quarters or change or this, that, and the other thing. And the end of the year, I gave it all to one of the homeless shelters here in St. John's. And I did that 2 or 3 years in a row. And I told my 2 friends, Andrew Fury and Brendan Paddock, about what I've been doing. And they said, well, that's a great idea. We should all do that. And as a matter of fact, why don't we create an engine, if you will, or a collections foundation where people, if they want to give us a buck, and we'll give it to a mental health or addictions program somewhere in the country. And very slowly but surely, we'll all be involved directly in the betterment of mental health and addictions issues across the country. And so we've been doing that for just over 2 years now. And we had, and as of today, I guess, I don't know, we'd be up around $850,000 raised for mental health and addiction so far. About half of that was raised during the supper time concerts this just since COVID-19 started. So a little bit of a bright light during a dark time, I think.
No, absolutely. So I guess that begs the question: what's next for you now? Anything cool coming down the pipe, or are we still kind of waiting to take our finger off the pause button here? What's next for you?
Oh, I'll work away at the projects that I have to work on. I got a musical and a book and a new record and all that stuff. I'll work away on that. We've moved all of our concerts into the earliest part of 2021. So all things being well, I can't believe I'm saying that. All things being well, we'd be allowed to play concerts again in next year. But I really don't think we're going to be allowed to do it before then. And to be honest with you, what I'm just doing is I'm taking advantage of this time to create, content that requires me to be in one place, and so that when the green light goes on, that we can all get on the road again, I'll be ready, and we'll all be ready, and because it's going to be a dogfight when the green light goes on. Let me tell you, can you imagine how difficult it's going to be to get a night in the theater, or a night in the club, or a night in a hockey rink? Because they're all going to be full as chock full for a long time. So.
Well, a good problem to hopefully look forward to in the not too distant future. I think we're all out of time for this episode of Growler Hour, presented by Molson Coors. Many thanks to today's special guests, Evan Neugold and Alan Doyle. Make sure you follow us on Twitch and catch us on Rogers Television Saturdays at 9 p.m., Sundays at 11. We'll see you next time.